standing out from the crowd, developing a destination restaurant experience. My name is Novia MacDonald-White, and I am delighted this afternoon to, on behalf of the Ministry of Tourism, Tourism Enhancement Fund, the Tourism Linkages Network, and Taste Jamaica, to present the final in our series, the final in our series from the Gastronomy Forum. Standing out from the crowd and developing a destination experience, you can't get a better panel than I have, that I have the good fortune to share with you this afternoon. You really have got, this is really the best of the best. But before we get to them, I think it's only fair that our Minister of Tourism, the Honourable Edmund Bartlett, should kind of, get in a word edgewise. This is his baby, the Gastronomy Forum. So, over to you.
Congratulations to the Tourism Enhancement Fund and its Tourism Linkage Network Division for executing this virtual Gastronomy Forum series, which will aid in preparing the culinary industry for the rebound of the tourism sector in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a hard year, but we are resilient and we will recover stronger. So, in these sessions, you will be getting information at the highest level to refresh the minds of those who already know and open the minds to new thinking for those who did not know. The strength of this industry is still around food. So, let's get it right and build our capacity to respond to this great demand, and in so doing, leave behind the most delightful aspects of every experience a visitor has, the culinary genius of our people.
And talking about the culinary genius of our people, our panelists this afternoon, Lisa and Christopher Binns, Stush in the Bush, Anna K. Tomlinson, Miss T's Kitchen, Adrienne and Daniel Lemaire, Dr. Bird's Services, and Michelle and Suzanne Rousseau, Summer House. We will start with a video presentation from Lisa and Chris Binns that will talk to you, and each person will speak, as I said before, on standing out from the crowd, and every single person that you listen to this afternoon and presentations that they'll make, they certainly know the formula, how to stand out in the crowd. Anybody here can pass muster anywhere in the world. So enjoy, because this is going to be your best 2 hours ever. We have a video presentation first that takes you to Stush in the Bush.
Jamaica's beauty is, I always say, it's really curvaceous. Winding and twisting and curving, and you're feeling all those curves. Your senses are going off. You're all excited. It's powerful, passionate love.
PG version.
It's a really nice place to visit.
Stush in the Bush really embodies this whole thought around rustic gourmet. The philosophy in itself is that we want you to learn how to fall in love with your food. It's not just about the food. It's about the entire experience.
It's been a rainy, windy morning. Zionite's farm at Stush in the Bush. What we're gonna do is to gather today's vegetables, greens, herbs, spices, fruits.
Parsley, cilantro, oregano. I'd like to make some fresh chimichurri sauce.
Whatever's gonna be on your menu, it's harvested fresh from the farm. I always describe Jamaica as a power center. There is a powerful energy just springing out of the earth. The connection with the earth is, I don't know, it's intrinsic for me. Breadfruit is a respect, it's a love, it's an appreciation, and it's also immediately you become a protector of that same earth.
Stush in the Bush is kind of the epitome of Chris and Lisa. The Bushman, the Rasta, the down-to-earth with the shishi fufu, New York, Beijing, Brooklyn girl.
Working with my wife is a powerful experience. She will work from sunrise to sunset. She will work out everybody here, including me. Sometimes I have to hide, but that energy is what makes us do what we do and do it very well. I say we are the best at what we do because we are probably the only people doing exactly what we do. An experience where you can come into someone's home or someone's farm, dine with them, learning about the medicinal plants, you're learning about all different types of food, and I can guarantee you, the food you get here, you won't get anywhere else in Jamaica. That I know for sure. Good afternoon. How you doing? Good. What's up? Blessed. People just dig a genuine experience. And for us, this is our home. And when we welcome you into our home, we welcome you like one of the family.
It's just who we are. It's what we do. It's what we put forth. Food is at the base of it. Why not have it be its very best?
Okay, guys, here we go.
And why not have it filled with pure love in it? It's a love for Jamaica, a love for the land, a love for great food, and being able to share that experience with other people. That's what you take in when you're at Stush in the Bush.
First two ingredients on all our products, love and affection. Those are the first two ingredients, but I always assume that people know that. I don't even mention it. See, just like stout. If he hears the word love and just gets excited. Okay, boy. All right. Okay. Love you too. Yeah, man.
I forgot to mention that you ought to have some food in front of you for the next 2 hours, but damn. Lisa, I suspect you have Chris in the Bush because I see you there, so let's go. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, too. I just wanted to thank the Tourism Enhancement Fund and the Linkages Network for inviting us to be a part of this conversation. I'd like to thank you too, Novia, and all of my industry leaders. The panelists that I'm sitting with are absolutely amazing. I actually stand on the shoulders of a couple of you right now. I have to give thanks for Anna K. Tomlinson for all of her advice and pushing. And I have to give thanks to Michelle and Suzanne Rousseau for, Two Sisters in a Meal so long ago. I still remember us sitting in that kitchen, Michelle, having some conversations about what we were about doing. So I give thanks for all of that because, you don't do this alone. You do this in companion with everyone. So that's the first thing. When I think about standing out from the crowd, I think the word for me is authentic, right? I think people have to be their authentic selves, right? As in the video, when Chris says that we are the best at what we do because we are the only ones doing exactly what we do, I think that that's accurate. So what do we do? So we grow vegetables, we make products, we share our life philosophy with you, we feed your soul. That's the whole point of coming to Stush in the Bush in the first place. So when we open up and embrace how we stand out, it is a curated experience. It's a bespoke experience. It's based on what's in season. It's based on, what is coming in on the farm. It's based on what's local. So for us, we are self-professed locavores. And we started this whole industry in terms of making products. And in making products, we just kind of blossomed underneath that, and we're able to kind of share with everybody a dining experience from that. And the whole point of having a dining experience is to really share with everyone what it is that we do here and what we're trying to kind of put out to everyone. Our goal always is to share from our soul. So that's really what we try to do. We try to give you a little bit of that whenever you come to Stush in the Bush. Our aim is to have you see that beauty and step outside of yourself and kind of slow down. The experience is not half an hour. The experience is 4 hours. It's a 7-course dining experience. And within that, you have this beautiful opportunity to walk the farm, have an earth walk and a chat with Chris, learn a little bit about medicinal plants, and also be able to take some of those things home with you. We do our best to get you to eat your vegetables, something that people, I think, have a real problem with, generally speaking. But we try to show you just how sexy it can be to eat vegetables and just how fulfilling a plant-based diet can really be. Our 7 courses kind of take you to the limits with all of those things. And we try to, I shouldn't even say we try, I think we do. So let's say it that way. We do make dining and vegetables and an experience that you can't get anywhere else on this island. So I'm really proud of us for that. I do believe that people do genuinely appreciate a genuine experience. And I think because it is a giving of Chris and myself, it's that whole heartedness that kind of comes out to everyone. We try to ensure that you get a little taste of both the stush and the bush. And so in doing so, when you leave from the farm, you don't leave with just a full tummy. You leave with a heart that's full, and you also leave with gifts. You might leave with a little rosemary behind your ear. You might leave with a bundle of fever grass or a bundle of lemongrass. You might leave with little seedlings and plants, or you might leave with Moses rod. So that experience in and of itself, it gives people an opportunity to kind of embrace nature and embrace the earth and be in tune and in sync with the earth and kind of step away from the busyness of life and be able to, retool, reset, have a better and a greater appreciation for the food that's going into your body and to the experience that you have when you're here with us. To be honest, I think when it comes to standing out from the crowd, you can only ever be yourself. And that honesty and genuine feeling in the food and in the experience is what fills you and keeps everybody coming back for more. So for me, the experience in and of itself is Chris and Lisa, right? And then all those other things that come together around that just make you feel like you're in a whole nother place. So that's it for me.
For now, because I'm sure the questions will be coming in fast and furious.
Thank you. For now, just a little bit of that.
Thank you very much, Lisa. There is no doubt in anybody's mind that Stush in the Bush certainly is a destination experience, and it's certainly unique. Anna K. Tomlinson from Miss T's Kitchen. Welcome. We have a video, and then I think Anna K. might be serving us some oxtail for lunch today. Welcome, Anna Kay.
Thanks, everyone. One on the panel here. Let's save the best for last. As Lisa said, thanks to Tourism Linkages Network, Tourism Enhancement Fund, Minister of Tourism, Uncle Ed, you've done a great job in just promoting Jamaican gastronomy, and we really appreciate it. And just overall Jamaican experiences, because we're not leaving you out, Adrian. So I just have to start by saying, this all started with my absolute love and passion for Jamaica, our food, our people, and its culture. And if you know me, I'm called a road trip queen. So all of this started by me jumping in my car and just traveling all over Jamaica and finding just some amazing food in amazing places and just meeting some great people. And so one day, as everybody'd say, Mercury clap up in my head, and I decided like 13 years ago to start Misty's Kitchen just for my love for Jamaican food. So let me take you down a road trip, yeah, because that's what started it. And let's head to Misty's Kitchen. So you're heading from the airport, you may be heading from Kingston, Negril, or Mobay. And you have to come through the town of Otrios, which is really authentic Jamaica, yes? It's the hustle, the bustle, the taxi man pushing you out the way, and then you have to know exactly where you're going because you're going to turn down this little lane on the left. And as you come down the lane, there are the potholes, yes. There are things on the wall that tell you what to do and not what to do. And then you turn in, and here you are at this an oasis. It really is just beautiful. And that's Misty's Kitchen. And you walk in, and it's just amazing. On the left, you have an old Jamaican house that I put in just because I love wine, and I always wanted an old Jamaican little house with fretwork, bright colors, and a beautiful veranda where you sit on your rocking chair like my grandmother used to do and sip a little wine. On the right, you have something brand new that's coming, and that's my daughter's little hut, which will come, Lala's Nutmeg, which is all vegan. And you walk along the way, and there's banana trees and bougainvillea and just hibiscus. And there's a Rastaman, a big carving with a Rastaman and a lion's head. And it just speaks of Jamaica, our people, the strength, and our resilience, like Uncle Ed spoke about earlier. And you come in, and it's just all authentic Jamaican, because that's our mission. Our mission at Misty's is to provide an authentic Jamaican experience with great food, ambience, service to find out what our guest wants and exceed their expectations with a wow experience. Yes? And you come in and you sit down, and it's very tropical. You can either sit inside in the AC, or you can sit outside and just feel a lovely country breeze of Otrios and enjoy some great food, as I said, in the ambience. And what I've done is from the road trips, I've incorporated all the things of Jamaica. The flowers, the colors, the slab, the zinc. And then let's talk about the food. Yes, you're going to get some oxtail today, Novia, but you just have to pretend. So we like to serve our food in real, authentic Jamaican. And like Lisa said earlier, it's just about that. We want to give you that authentic Jamaican experience. And it just comes from my heart, and it comes from my love and my passion, as I said earlier, for Jamaican food. So you get your oxtail in a real old-time coal stove, you know, with a little Dutch pot, and you have everything. We put a little candle in there, and it's just an experience. So we're known for our oxtail, but we have to change it up a little. And when I was growing up as a little girl, we're keeping it Jamaican again. You can get your oxtail, which most people, that's what they go crazy about. I love the authentic Jamaican curry goat. So you can get a mix in your shed pan with your rice and peas. Yeah? So we like to be different. And then if you just want to say, boy, you know what? I love the Jamaican food, but I want a little change. You can get what Adrian loves, an oxtail pasta. So you get a nice, boneless pasta with all the little spinach, the carrot, the broad bean, everything. And then we put that over a lovely bed of nice penne pasta with a creamy white sauce with fresh basil and Parmesan cheese. That's the food of Misty's Kitchen. And we also do vegan food because my daughter is vegan, my husband is vegan. I've tried it, but that didn't work out very well. But anyway, I still cook it, and I do very well at it. So we have, like, to be different, we have like a curry ackee, and I can't take the credits for that. That's my husband's invention. He curried the ackee. We have little small mini bammies, and then we put a nice, whatever fruit is in season, we make the chutney. I love Lisa's tomato chutney, that's delicious. And then we put the curry ackee on it, and it is with a little sesame seeds, it's divine. Yeah? So that's Misty's Kitchen, and it is wonderful. And how you stand out. I looked up dining experiences. And it just spoke about really just being authentic, being yourself, sharing that with, whether it's local or international people, just sharing that experience, making people feel golden, making them feel, boy, this is really special. It's not just the food, but I feel the love. I feel it with the personalities that are here. I see it on the wall, like you have Bob Marley corner at Miss T's Kitchen, where you can sit and feel like, you and Bob Marley are one. And you have a little saying where from Bob Marley, you never know how strong you are until strength is the only choice you have. Yeah. And then you have people who love food are always the best people. There's a sign with that from Julia Child. So it's all there. It's all, you feel it as you walk in. You have the jelly on an old-time fridge, like real old-time Jamaican thing, the freezer. And it tell you, drink a jelly and wash out your heart with a Jamaican man just under a coconut tree, just relaxing. So that's it. It's about the food, yes, but it's also about just the whole authentic Jamaican experience. And that's what we try to create at Miss T's Kitchen. And I think we've done a pretty good job. Yeah. The other thing is so I've done Miss T's. I love it. I always say Miss T's is my baby. But in traveling, I went to a place in Croatia and with my husband, and it was just one of my most memorable experiences, apart from Stush in the Bush in Jamaica. And it was really simple. It was in the hills. It took us 2 hours to get there. And, rock stones coming down at us as we were going up the driveway. But it was just an amazing experience. The food was good, but the experience was just mind-blowing. The view was out of this world. It was very personable. The people were very involved. They gave us olive oil. It was just amazing. And so I changed the road trip now, and I came back to Jamaica, and I said, all right, now we're going to have to find somewhere like that, because I have to try and recreate this in Jamaica. And once again, I think part of my mission is to find places that are very difficult to find, like Miss T's Kitchen. You have to know where you're going. You have to come down the hole and find it. Murphy Hill, Miss T's at Murphy Hill is my newest baby. It's not so new. It's been about 2 years. It's up in the hills of St. Anne. And when I tell you, it has one of the most amazing views. It has this energy of Jamaica and a vibe that I can't explain. It's just unreal. We were doing a farm-to-table tour there with Martha Stewart before COVID. And now we've had to just, turn around and try and recreate new things. And so what we do is we do experiences of, for guests, 10 or more. And you have to make reservations at least 48 hours in advance. And we do events. We've done lovely events with Dr. Bird services up there. And when they come and set it up, it's just mind-blowing. I mean, it's really just beautiful. Thank you, Adriana and Daniel. It's lovely working with you guys. And then we have something else up our sleeve that we're going to come about that, trust me, this one will really stand out in the crowd. So for me, it is just really I'm just passionate about what I do. I absolutely love what I do. I love Jamaica, and it just comes out in what we do. I couldn't have done it without the most amazing team I have. They're really lovely. And for me, it's not about the business or all of that. As I say, it's about my love and my passion for Jamaica, the food, and the people. Yeah. And my parting thing would be that let us, Jamaica, make that dining experience. Make people worth planning their whole vacation around that dining experience. And not just food, but an experience. Yes? And here in St. Anne, guys, look at us. I mean, Miss T's Kitchen, Miss T's at Murphy Hill. Summer House, welcome to St. Anne. It's wonderful having you. It's the kind of place, guys, I leave it for Michelle, where you just want to dress up, look really fabulous, go and have some wonderful cocktails, have a great meal. That is totally different to anything that all of us do here. And it's really a welcoming change. It really is. It's beautiful what you've done, but I leave that to you. Lisa and Chris Stush in the Bush, we were there on Sunday. Oh my God. It was just memorable. I mean, it was just mind-blowing. I had over and over and repeatedly, you know what, over and over again, what you guys are doing there is just amazing. Adrian, you have a lot doing in all over Jamaica, but we wanted to focus on St. Ann, okay? We're possessive. But yes, you're doing some amazing stuff. And as I said, I've worked very well with you guys. And we're gonna stand out, guys, because it's going to be just amazing. And what I love is that Jamaican people are now really appreciating what we have. You know, our food, going out, the experiences. And then when the world reopens, let me tell you, Jamaica, prepare. We're there on top. We're there on top. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, actually, Summer House is in St. Mary, but we'll, you know, I'm sure like everybody else in Uchi, you'll own it. If you're just joining us, we're listening to, we have just listened to Anna K. Thomason. You've missed Lisa, but don't worry, she'll be back again. From Stush in the Bush. This is Standing Out from the Crowd, Developing a Destination Experience, presented by Tourism Linkages, the Gastronomy arm, in association with Ministry of Tourism, the Tourism Enhancement Fund, and Taste Jamaica. We continue our conversation, standing out from the crowd, developing a destination restaurant experience with Adrienne and Daniel Lemaire. Well, I see Adrienne and not Danielle, so I'm assuming that you're holding court. Welcome.
Thank you all for having me. I am holding down the fort, and unfortunately, Danielle is not able to join us today. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Linkages Network and the Tourism Enhancement Fund. And good afternoon to my fellow panelists. I'm a huge fan of all of you. So I'm super excited to be here with you all. So I think the video is supposed to go on first, but if not, I can just start.
Carnival this year. I saw Michelle's shoulders just fall, but Adrienne, I'm certain that you've created quite a few experiences for people, complete with music. Over to you. Welcome, Adrienne.
Thanks again, Novio. So we are not a restaurant platform. However, we have carved our niche in the hospitality market. So our company, Dr. Bird Services, is an above-the-line DMC type platform whereby we work with the entire gamut of the hospitality segment, from private ground and air logistics to boutique accommodations, which being villa accommodations or boutique hotels. And with that, we tie in elements of food and beverage, pre-stocking for the villas, and bespoke dining experiences, along with other signature experiences to complement and enhance the experiences that our guests have while on the island. We cater to both local and the overseas market. And more, we found different ways to develop our model to bring more value to our clients and expose them to more and more elements of Jamaica. My wife and I, we travel quite a lot, or pre-COVID at least, and food was definitely the driver for our experiences and for our selection of destinations. And we found that we could do so much with F&B when it came to our particular model with Dr. Bird Services, both internally for guests staying with us at our accommodations, at our partner properties, as well as for community tourism. Anna Kay touched on this earlier. We've done quite a bit of work with Anna Kay. We've sent large groups and small groups, to Miss T's as well as to Summer House and to Stush in the Bush. And we always encourage our clients to have an experience in-house where we are, but also go and see what else is out there in the areas where they're staying. And that obviously comes together and does a nice consolidated experience for them while on the island. So during 2020, especially, we all had to pivot with our businesses, right? And we saw an opportunity there where folks couldn't travel, they couldn't leave Jamaica, and we could bring experiences from other countries to them here. So, for example, we had a couple that were scheduled to have gone to Santorini for their wedding anniversary. Well, we brought Santorini to Ocho Rios, and we brought a whole bespoke experience to their beachfront villa with, a pop-up kitchen, an executive chef, a Greek menu, Greek cocktails, Greek music. And all these are the different variables that we put together to ensure that the experience is a complete experience, down to the volume of the music that's playing in the background and the lighting. My wife, Danielle, is excellent with decor and logistics, and she creates amazing experiences with beautiful table spreads and florals and all this with our preferred partners that we work together with and create these beautiful dinner or lunch experiences, which can happen both in the privacy of your villa or your boutique hotel or off-site at random locations, whether it be on a sandbank on an island in the middle of the sea or in a canopy of bamboo on the hill. We do all kinds of pop-up experiences now to complement our guests who are staying at our partner properties while on the island. And this goes from whether it's a couple who wants to do a romantic, out of the ordinary curated experience, or a group of 15 to 20 when we can, based on the protocols, of course. And we work side by side with the teams for all of our properties, as well as reaching out to executive chefs and butlers that we work with around the island and have them work alongside us for these experiences based on where they are and the fine-tuning of the model. Our model allows us to get to know our clients in advance, and knowledge of the client is very important. So we know exactly what they want, and then we exceed their expectations and put our twist on it as well. And with that, creates a very genuine and unique experience for them while on the island. And these are the things that people take away when they go back home, and home meaning whether it's overseas or home back in Montego Bay or Kingston, wherever. And they come back and say, I had a great weekend. I was able to unwind. I was able to relax, but I also had this super dining experience, which was out of the ordinary. The setting was beautiful. The food was impeccable. The wine pairing was fantastic. And this is what we're trying to achieve, working together with partners around the island to make this happen for our clients and enhance their entire stay when on island or visiting from parish to parish. So in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Thank you very much. There's no video ahead of this presentation coming up from Michelle Rousseau. Suzanne is missing, but I'm sure she's somewhere. But for those of you who've not yet been to Summer House, Anna Kay made mention of it earlier on, just when we figured that, Christmas was going to come, there was nowhere for us to run to, there were no parties, suddenly word spread that Summer House had opened. Some of us are still recovering. But over to you, Michelle, to talk about standing out from the crowd, developing a destination restaurant experience.
Thank you very much. It's always wonderful to be here and be with my peers and the people, you know, that have been around me in this industry for so many years. Obviously, thank you to the Ministry of Tourism, TEF, you know, the Tourism Linkages Network, the Gastronomy Network. I think these are conversations that we need to have, and we need to open, create more and more opportunities and forums where we can have these dialogues around what it is to be a destination and what is required. So, I mean, I'm going to take my talk from a little different perspective today, because I think when I sat down and thought about it, I think it's impossible to talk about creating a destination experience in the world of today without putting it in the context of the pandemic. I mean, it has changed literally everything. And I think this time presents an opportunity for Jamaica as a destination in general to create unique food experiences that can allow us as an entire entity to stand out from the crowd. This is not just us individually. So, you know, I think now is the perfect time to check in with ourselves and to purposefully chart a way forward that, with equanimity, you know, and purpose. So while we can look at restaurants as a specific industry, we cannot take it out of the context of the industry at large, because you know, the hospitality industry is not a linear industry. It is multifaceted, and it involves all sorts of subsects and smaller sectors. It's the crafts people, it's the marketing people, it's the designers, it's the workers, it's the employees, it's the drivers, it's the fishermen, it's the farmers. And so you can't really look at this industry in isolation. So you could start the PowerPoint, and I'll start a little bit of just an overview. So you can skip to the next slide, please. So, you know, Summer House is our business, and we've been in it. We've been in the hospitality industry for 25 years. We started our first restaurant in 1996 as a cafe, as well as a boutique. And this is the latest evolution, and I won't go into the legacy and the history of that. But I think that as we move into the future, it was very important for us to examine the context for where we are today. And I think you can't do that without looking at the impact of the pandemic. So please, can you do the next slide? There are some glaringly obvious, outcomes from the pandemic. One would be the economic impact that it has had on the industry at large, but also most specifically on the independently owned restaurant industry. And this is globally. This is not just Jamaica. You know, I know people who've owned restaurants all over the world, and 9 out of 10 of them have closed and not been able to reopen. So it has had a devastating impact generally across the board on a lot of people. But it has also done something else. It's revealed a sort of systemic imbalance that existed within the industry, a racial and cultural bias, access to funding, financing, and this is not Jamaica to be specific. This is just the world over. So what that led me to evaluate is, what is the outdated old thought process for developing a viable destination product? You know, how would it have been approached in the past? And so the first thing that you would have been told if you were doing something in a hospitality, market would be a little bit ethnic, but not too much. We got this narrative a lot when we started to go overseas with our book and that kind of stuff. So it's almost like show things the way that people want to see them, or the way they need to see them to feel comforted. And the second was, don't push the boundaries or make anybody uncomfortable. So tone down the Jamaican accent, tone down the spice in your food, tone down. And then the other one was, all of this, kind of ultimately leads to a diminishing of your own personal experience to fit an accepted standard. But the challenge here is that standard is being defined by an external authority. It's not coming from within. So how someone perceives ackee, this is a narrative I say all the time, where people say, oh, it's just like egg. That's a narrative of some person or marketing person that maybe came to Jamaica in the 1960s and said, oh my God, it's like egg. And that has become the established narrative about a product that is inherently Jamaican. And it has happened with jerk as well. So the question we need to ask ourselves before we move forward, and it's really essential that you look at your past in order to move into the future, is the destination experience and that old model still relevant at all under current conditions? It has evolved over time, but you have to take this into account, because COVID has absolutely and will continually change the face of how we need to do business in this industry in order to remain relevant. And so the biggest question as a larger concept moving forward is the question for me and for our business as we evaluate it constantly is the question of relevance. Relevance in the sense that, you have to apply that concept to your business model. And as Adrian said, his business model is not specifically a restaurant experience. And Stush in the Bush is a dining experience, but it's not a restaurant per se. And obviously Miss T's is a restaurant, and then you have a different experience at Murphy Hill. So the question is for relevance is that to your business model, to your personal, you may be a cart man who sells eggs down at Coronation Market, or you're a fine dining restaurant. Is your product relevant for the new reality? It's not enough to pivot. It's actually a word I don't like. And we don't use ever. I think you have to reinvent. It's an ongoing dialogue and conversation with yourself, because the moving forward, everything is absolutely going to have to change. So it's not just about what you eat, where you eat, how you eat. It's about now who you eat with, how many people you're allowed to eat with. How is the food made? Where is it sourced? So some of those things are related to COVID specifically, and some of them are just global trends about food security and safety and things like that. And it's really very important to really evaluate all of this before you apply any kind of model to any business, but in particular to creating a food experience in a destination market. Next slide, please. So if you take the concept of relevance as a lens for your own business model, the question then becomes, what does relevance look like for you in your business? And, the bottom line here is that you want to be relevant, but you still want to do you. I think everybody here is very unique. The experience that you would have at Stush in the Bush does not in any way replicate anything that you have at Miss T's or at Summer House. And so you want to do you, but you want to be relevant. And if you apply the lens of relevance, from a perspective or a look at 5 main aspects of your business, which is what we basically do with every project. This does not only apply to restaurants or destination experiences, but you need to apply this as a context through which you view your business. And next slide, please. And those 5 things are really, really quite simple, and it's something everybody can do. And the first question is, what are people looking for? And then you can add a caveat to that. What are people looking for in a destination experience? What are people looking for from my restaurant? What are people looking for, in my supermarket? So you can put details or avenues or break out into parts of your business to really delve deeply. And, you come up with answers that are relevant to you. So what does someone want when they come to Miss T's? What does someone want when they come to Stush in the Bush? What does someone want when they come to have a dining experience with Dr. Bird Services? And your answer really comes from a place that is related to your experience. So for us, some of the things that are obvious, they want comfort. They need to feel special. In this time, people have been isolated. We've been disconnected. So this sense of social isolation, as a result of COVID is important. That, it's an important thing to look at in terms of what people are going to want when they go out again. Reassurance of safety. It's a huge thing. People want to feel safe when they come to dine with you or spend time with you. They want to feel that, and that's not just safety as in, all your COVID protocols are being met. That comes down to, is the food well prepared? Is the environment clean? Are the bathrooms sanitary? Can I trust that these people are buying from a good source of for their supplier and their food suppliers? They want, I believe, simplicity. People, if it's hard, if it's too much work, everything has been complicated for the last, year, not to mention now, So it needs to feel simple. It needs to feel easy. It needs to feel doable. And affordability, affordability is a big one, affordability in the context of, and this is affordability for your target market. Okay. So this is not affordability across the board, because again, there are levels and perspectives to things. Affordability in the context of not only what does it cost, but what's it going to cost you to have that experience? How much time do you have to, and is it worth it? How much time do you have to take out of your day? How much effort is it to do it? Does it feel like work when you get there and the service isn't good and the people are like, no, son, I can't do that. Like sometimes when you go to certain kinds of government organizations to get services done, like JPS yesterday, who cut off my light. So it's like, you feel like you're fighting a battle and it feels like work. You can't, for someone to feel taken care of, it can't feel like work to them. So then after all of that, you've had your 5 or your 2 or your 3 things that are key to you, you ask yourself, is how I work relevant to this experience? So is what I am doing, does it take into account all of these things that I have defined here that I believe when people come to me, they are looking for? Next slide, please. The second thing is sustainability. So are your systems relevant to what you do? So obviously environmental sustainability is important. But not everybody can be an organic farm, which is, absolutely needed, but not everybody is going to be in that space. So, the sustainability piece is also how sustainable is your business model? How sustainable, are you importing all of your products from overseas? So now when you're in the middle of a pandemic, you cannot get X or Y or Z because large importers aren't bringing things in. So then the question is, how can you make a menu that's more relevant, that can work with more local suppliers to change things? Do you know your community, your community relationships? Are you supporting small business within your community? Provenance is a big thing. Where are your goods coming from? You need to be able to trace that. Who are your suppliers? Who are your providers? And where is your stuff coming from? Because the supply chain in a destination is very important. And this is why it's called linkages in the tourism network, because it's not in isolation. You have to work with all avenues of the industry to be able to be successful. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, back 1, please. To 3. It's frozen. Okay. All right, then. Well, we seem to be missing slide 2, so I'll talk about it even if it's not there. The next is narrative. So story, what is your story and what parts of the story do you want to keep or expand or focus on? And, at the end of the day, in the world of today, there's far too much competition. Will we be able to go back to the slide or no? Anyway, there's far too much competition. There you go. So a business needs to have a story and roots that are deeper than just the products that you produce in order to survive and thrive in these times. And that does not mean that you're inventing a story. That means that what parts of your story, your narrative, your personal experience that you're delivering to a client, what parts of that do you want to build on or expand or enhance? Because in the world of today, a customer or a consumer needs to have something that they can sink their teeth into. And it's not that is necessary for them to justify working with you. What that is necessary for is for them to have a reason to come back and to experience it again, to have a reason to talk about it, to have a reason to want to share and tell others that you must go. So, if you go to Stush in the Bush, oh my God, you've got to go there because when you have this, they're going to tell you about that. And, when you go to Miss T's, there's this thing, where this thing and then the way they serve that oxtail is X or Y or Z. There needs to be a narrative that is bigger than the product, because generally in Jamaica, everybody cooks well. We have a society and a community of wonderful culinarians, whether they are traditionally trained or not. So the question is, what are you doing that makes your experience, not just your food, different from others? Next slide, please. I cannot focus on this enough. I've done various projects, my sister and I, over the years, where we do, stuff with international organizations and things. And Jamaica does not spend enough time focusing on product development, and it's simply put. This is a rapidly evolving industry. If it is that the last time you put a new product on your menu or on your shelf was in the year 2000, you're already 20 years behind the game. So being aware of the trends, but also investing in what you can do to improve what you already do. And some ideas for this. Product development does not mean, molecular gastronomy is trending, let me put that in my place. That it has to be relevant to you. So the idea is improve what is relevant to you and authentic to your business. And how can you improve that? And how can you create a value-added product? How can you refine and improve what you're doing and how you do it? It's very important to remember that in the world of hospitality, your products are intangible. They're not fixed assets. You're selling a concept to somebody. You're saying to somebody, come here and eat with us, and this is the experience that you're going to have. And that only becomes a reality when you have produced it. So at the end of the day, refining and improving your product doesn't mean that you're putting new items on your menu every day. It may be that you're offering a new experience. It may be that you're running a happy hour, or you're selling a Sunday brunch, or you're doing a different tour, or you're kind of adding a niche or a piece or a nook in the corner where people can go and have a private meal. That's a product in the context of hospitality and restaurant. So there are beautiful restaurants all over the world that have had the same menus for, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. They're iconic and they will never change. But they're evolving in some way. Maybe they're improving a technique. Maybe they're improving, something within their supply chain. Maybe they're improving the training or something in the staff, or maybe it's the computerization of how they run the front of the house. There are ways that you can improve your product without changing your product. That's very important in terms of developing, to me, something that is unique and authentic. Next slide, please. We have a freeze. Well, I'll talk anyway. The next slide is really, to me, what I think is the thing that ties it all absolutely together and is essential in this entire conversation is the question of accountability. And how relevant and accountable are your operating systems, and how much, can you trust the sort of, how accountable are you to new methodologies? How accountable are you to the food security and traceability and transparency in your production? How much are you, training, your workforce? This is very important. This is something that people in Jamaica don't think about doing because they think we already know how to do things. And yeah, you may know how to do things, but, the piece that ties it together is the training, the improving your team constantly, consistently, and over again. How accountable are you to your community? Are you working with small suppliers, regional suppliers? Are you in communication, and do you have a certain level of integrity in your relationship with the people that you work with? That's essential. I think that when you put it all together, your community is larger than just your customers. Your community is the network of people in the supply chain, the people that provide you with product so that you can produce a value-added product, so that a consumer can come and absorb and embrace that experience that you have curated or brought together. And that is ultimately what the difference is between a destination experience and just a regular, walk up to a fast food, is that you are creating something that people feel is memorable and they're going to take away. And I think that is not limited to a certain category of restaurant. Next slide, please. I think that moving forward for the future, the restaurant industry in Jamaica and the hospitality industry as a whole needs to be rebuilt on a platform of trust and inclusivity. And I think this is something that I'll say over and over again, and I will repeat it over and over again. We need a model that works well for all. I think that, our industry has focused largely, just not because of being exclusionary, but our industry focuses largely on the key core big people that bring a lot of revenue. And, we need to have that vibrant competition. We need to have a lot of smaller independent businesses operating to create a destination that is truly unique and that has variety and diversity, because the focus here needs to be less on comparison and on looking at what anybody else is going to be doing or not doing in order to be relevant, or what this person is doing over there to get that business. I think at the end of the day, we all are a piece of a greater whole, and the more diverse and the more varied and the more interesting that landscape is, the better it is for the visitor. And the more that we build experiences around passions and values that are our passions and values, that belong to us, that are not an external narrative created by someone outside of us that's telling us what we should create to feed that market. What we are doing is that we're building a destination that is truly unique, and you're building an experience that's truly unique. And, I think in this industry, a lot of people feel that, you just do what you do, and there's a lot of sameness, you know. So if you go to a market or if you go to a craft market, you'll see that every vendor side by side has the exact same products. And if you don't focus on sort of making a way that you are a little bit different from everybody else, then what you have is a uniform experience that anybody who walks out of their hotel to go into the local communities says, "La, but there's nothing to buy. Everywhere they have the same thing," you know. So I think that's really what you want to avoid. And then the final slide, or a few slides. I think that this diversity allows or creates a space where you can have multiple types of experiences, each individually unique in their own way. I think that if you really focus on that and allow those businesses to evolve, it is the best way that you can make the business thrive. Could I have the last slide, please? This is something that my sister and I came out of, and we had to do a report the other day, and I will read it. In Jamaica, the hospitality industry has mostly been served by entities like hotels, cruise ships, tour companies, etc. To successfully market Jamaica as a destination for gastronomy requires far greater development of avenues that are currently untapped, like smaller producers of fine foods and local culinary experiences. The experience that a visitor has in a hotel is not the experience of eating on the roadside or in a small family-run restaurant. To improve the destination's experience, it is very important to facilitate growth of the individual identity of each food establishment, where each is producing a unique product or experience that is signature to them. And really, in closing, the only thing I would really have to say is that it's kind of time to focus, you know, overall on the context of relevance and the question of, you know, is it necessary? Is it for the good of all? Can I do this without harming the environment or harming anyone? You know, there is a sweet spot that ultimately is a space which I think all of the people on this panel have found, where you are appealing both in authenticity to the local and to the visitor. And that space is when you know that you've kind of figured out something that is going to work. And I think that the consumer of today has lost patience for flighty and frivolous experiences. I think people want to focus and have an experience that shows you the values of the people who are providing that experience for you, that allows you to embody a taste or a perspective of another type of lifestyle that is not your own. And that is not exclusionary. That is something that, you know, you can be someone who appreciates all across the gamut. It may not be how you choose to live on a daily life, but it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the guy next door who's doing it slightly differently. So I think if you're conscious of the narrative, and I think if you're conscious of the needs of the consumer, you can create an incredible experience and restaurant and dining experience that is truly 100% unique to you. And it allows and creates space for all businesses to thrive. And I really do think that the industry needs to focus on the small provider, the small producer, the independently owned restaurant, and allow us to build out a model for our destination that has as much diversity as you would find in the south of France or in Italy, driving through the countryside, which is why people go to places like that. And it's to experience that dining and culture.
Thank you very much. A few comments and then we'll get back to you, because I think there are about 3 questions for you there, Michelle. Stush does feed the soul, Renee. #SoulFoodRain. Tashan Samuels, the best experience ever. Love Stush in the Bush. Love Lisa and Chris. Chef Brian Lumley, we do appreciate these types of experiences. Simone Walker Barrett, beautiful restaurant Miss T's. Dr. Carey Wallace, awesome forum. Carl, Gastronomy Innovation. Kay, this is making me hungry. I'm starving. Luxury Treats, miss your food, Miss T, the colors of your restaurants. Resilience, relevance, and reinvention. Michelle, can you elaborate a bit more? I mean, not that you've not, obviously in the interest of time, you kept the presentation pretty tight, but speak to relevance and reinvention, because if you're talking about standing out from the crowd, developing a destination restaurant experience, is it that, not that we're going to see the back of COVID anytime soon, but how much more relevant ought we to be?
I think Jamaica as a destination is already relevant, and we will maintain that relevance because of a few core things. We're accessible, easily accessible. We are have a lot of option in the market. So if you do come and you want variety, we have a variety of tours. We have experiences that people can have, and it's a familiar. And we have a great brand and a great reputation. What I think is lacking in the industry, and I think is going to become more and more relevant as we evolve and as times change, is that because of and this is not a negative thing, it's just another piece of the puzzle, because of the prevalence of all-inclusives in Jamaica, what has happened over time is that the independently run hospitality destination experience that was perhaps a small restaurant, perhaps an individual tour, perhaps whatever. A lot of that they would not necessarily failed, but they haven't gotten the attention that they need to get. And the smaller businesses that support the infrastructure of the industry, that allow other people to also have an income as sort of filters off of the industry, those have not gotten the infrastructural support that they need to evolve, elevate, and sort of raise their level to be producing at a standard that is a global standard. So there is no established international standard. I mean, a minor thing that's an example, and it's something that's been in conversations for years. There's no independent restaurant association in Jamaica. So when something comes out and it's the JHTA has an angle on it, and this one, and the PSOJ has, and JEA has, and all of these industries that support smaller businesses, those are not specific to our industry. So what happens in a scenario when there are resources or there are things that are put out there, and I don't mean restaurants as people like me, because I'm a medium-sized enterprise. I'm not small. There are spaces in between the Pan Chicken Man and us that need a lot of infrastructural and resourcing and support. They need resources to find where to buy things. They need to be able to negotiate better prices. They need to, even just building a business plan. I mean, this is not something that a lot of businesses here. So, someone like an organization like the TEF may put out, a facility, a loan facility. But how many of the people that really need that loan facility would have the infrastructure and the support and the resources to truly be able to access it? And business dies without money. If you can't have money, you cannot survive. Your business, the number one reason for most small businesses failing is a lack of cash flow. So if it is that you cannot find a way to finance your business, if it is that you have not been told by someone to sit down and put a business plan on paper, a lot of people fall into the business and it's successful. But once you get to a certain point, there is zero excuse to not have a business plan or a business model. So I think when you speak to relevance, I think the relevance of how we maintain our relevance, because Jamaica has always been relevant. We've been leaders in this sort of regional tourism for a long time, and it's more about how do we retain that lead? How do we continue to do what we already do really well? But how do you expand that market and allow space where there is equanimity, where there is inclusivity, where everybody in the industry and all the people who support the industry can have access to the same resources and opportunities as the people who are, it's not because of favoritism, it's just because they're more organized than a lot of the smaller businesses are. And so I think it's relevance and resilience. Resilience is key. Jamaicans have it in spades. But, the concept of reinvention comes from a base of knowledge. You have to strategize, and you have to look at your market, and you have to evaluate where you're going and where you're going to want to be. And this is why I say it's an ongoing conversation. You can pivot today, but then last week we were able to open on weekends, and our busiest weekends, our busiest time is weekends now. So because we can't open on weekends, what, does my business close? I may be forced to temporarily close for a period of time if I have no business in the week, but what does that look like? And I think that it's a dialogue. It's a dialogue between yourself and your team, and a dialogue with yourself, and also with honest conversations about what's happening in the market and opportunities that are in the market. And I mean, it's very hard to do this in a 1-hour forum, but I just think that it's something that is needed in order to retain our lead in this industry that we already have as a destination, that is.
Does anybody, can I hear from Lisa or Anna Kay or Adrienne? In fact, let me ask Adrienne this question before going to, I've long said, during the food halls, many seminars that, we need to become a destination where, Michelle alluded to it, where people literally pack their bags and want to come to Jamaica to eat. Is this something that you are hearing? Is this something, Adrienne, based on what you're doing, that has the word spread that Jamaica is a food destination? Or is it something that is a hard sell for you? The fact that you have to be recreating different destinations in Jamaica?
Absolutely, Novia. Jamaica strives on a number of levels, right? We're a very blessed island, the topography of the island, our culture, our sports, theater, and music, of course, and also food. Food is increasingly popular. Social media helps with a lot of this worldwide, obviously. Street food is popular in so many countries of the world. And in Jamaica, we're lucky that we have amazing street food and we have amazing farm-to-table food. We have great conditions to grow produce in. And we have, we're so family-oriented in Jamaica. And similar to what Michelle said, everybody can cook in Jamaica. And we have a lot of resources here. And I find that more and more people are investigating and they want to find out more about the gastronomic side of Jamaica. We do get the requests from overseas clients quite a bit. They ask a lot of questions. And what we do is in our homes, like for example, this property, which we have a vested interest in, we thrive here at Kaiki Villa to be the #1 gastronomic villa. And so a newly completed place on the island. And what we do is for our clients, like we have guests who are coming down, we do a fusion to integrate local specialties with what would be called, I guess, home food on their side, right? So that they can get a feel of the Jamaican food. And from there, we will then introduce it in phases to them to break it in. So let's say, and Anake has been amazing at doing this. Her oxtail pasta is a perfect example. We will do a deboned oxtail taco, for example. The guests will know exactly what a regular taco is. We do a deboned curry goat taco and basically gel the Jamaican food with comfort food on their end. And then after that, they can get introduced to a proper curry goat and then an ackee saltfish quiche or a callaloo quiche or a callaloo spano copita. And we gel that on day 1. And then day 2, they get the authentic ackee and saltfish. And it becomes a hit. It's been phenomenal how Jamaican food has been well received. And more we are getting inquiries from foreigners about, what are the top 10 things that we should try while we're there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and in between as well. And, it's definitely something that has been growing. We've seen the trends grow over the years. And I think a big part of it as well is the push that we're all doing as leaders in the industry, having the options out there as well and marketing ourselves properly. And the government has been doing more and more work, the tourist board at least, to help us to gain that level of exposure. And I think we're onto something that's massive. And we need to continue pushing 100% with food being a major driver for destination experiences in Jamaica.
Anna Kay, what's your take on this?
I feel the same way. I know Michelle had mentioned earlier. I remember when I first moved to Utrecht, there were so many small restaurants all around. And like she said, they just couldn't sustain themselves because of the all-inclusives. I think that has changed. I've seen the change with me at Miss T's Kitchen recently with that over the last 3-4 years. I don't want to mention just one person, but I have to. Like Sandals, they have now incorporated where they promote you. They're promoting for you to go out and eat at an approved, authentic Jamaican restaurant, or say a Stush in the Bush, or Summer House. So I'm grateful for that. And I think that the whole tourism gastronomy promotion has been really, really helping. I mean, I work a lot with Tourist Board, and I have to give them this. I've seen, again, in the last 3-4 years, where they've really included us, and, they're trying to bring influencers and just promote just really a Jamaican experience with food. And I've seen the change. I really have, and I really appreciate it. And like Adrian said, what I do is, if you can't manage the real authentic Jamaican, then we have, what I've done is we have fusions. But I find that people really come here to experience that local, authentic, real Jamaican food. I mean, they'll be at Misty's and they say, boy, we hear about a patty. Can we get a patty? And thank God we're right there. We can send and get a Jamaican patty. And let me tell you, when them taste that thing, and drink that with a red stripe there, just to see their faces and just to see how they enjoy it, it's just unreal. Or even a Callaloo patty, it's just lovely. So I think that we're on to something really big. I know. Because like you said, the most people, I travel, when we plan to travel, I look at the food. I look at the restaurants. I'm like, babe, we're going to Turkey. He'll be like, babe, we're going to Vietnam. I'll be like, yeah, man, because that's what drives us. And I think nowadays that's what's really driving a lot of persons is the food and the experience. And we have that here, and we just need to stay on it, keep promoting it, and just, trying to help all the, like you said, the smaller people, the vendors and so, try and work with them to make them aware and to try and improve their conditions so that people will want to go to them also. Yeah, that's my thing.
Thank you. Lisa.
So there's a couple of things that I want to say. First of all, Michelle, thank you for that, because I think it really does put quite a lot of things in perspective. I think how I sort of see us playing into that, one of the things that we've been spending a lot of time on is training as of late. And having the dining experience not just be something that is just of Chris and myself, but also of the team that we're working with. Because I feel like it's really, really critical to expose people to as much as you possibly can. And I'm not talking about necessarily just the tourists. I'm talking about the team that you build that puts out what it is that you are feeding people. One of the things that we've always stood really, really hard on is that we're not necessarily just for tourists. We are also for Jamaicans. And, it is Jamaicans that have sustained us through this entire period, right? Because when you don't have tourists that are coming in, it has to be that longing for, that desire to kind of go out and experience what is here in Jamaica, i.e. the staycation, or i.e. the, having your own gastronomic tour and experiencing all of the different places that there are to eat here. And it is really important that I think that we do support each other. But the other part of that is that the staff that you have to have that same understanding of what it is that you're trying to do, because product development is great, but what is the product, right? The product is the product of food, is the product of the experience. We are a farm to table experience. And one of the things that you talked about that strikes a chord with us always is local, right? How are you supporting the local artisans? How are you supporting the people who are here on this island that are making things and have things that you can turn around and use inside of your kitchen or inside of your space, right? All of those things kind of tie the entire thing together. It's not just about the food itself. It's about where are you sourcing it, right? One of the things that we've stood on all along has been being locavores, being people who are taking in what is local, right? And I think that that is really important, especially in times of a pandemic. How many times have I gone to PriceSmart and I can't find olive oil? Or how many times have I gone to PriceSmart and I can't find, coffee, or I can't find particular things? So, the supply chain is really impacted. And I mean, we may not all see that, but it is. One of the things that we've done is we've started to make our own yogurt, right? we're making coconut yogurt, right? That is something that is not, yes, just vegan, but it's also something that's really delicious. It's also something that can be used and, system-wide, not necessarily just by us, but it's something that we can put out to other people to use. When it comes to staff has to be trained. They need to know how you make things, what you do with things, and also just about infrastructure in terms of, what things cost and how you're going to use them, first in, first out, all of those things that perhaps maybe because I wasn't formally trained, I don't know all of those things initially. So it is something that you develop along the way. And the pride that I feel that our staff has as a result of having those conversations, having training, having an understanding what is the product that we're putting out to people, I think is really critical. So I'm really happy that you started to have that dialogue and talk about the things about remaining relevant, because all of those things are what keeps us relevant, right? That we're using things that are in season. We're using things that are at our fingertips and, quality, but at our fingertips. Those are the things that kind of allow for our system to keep rolling. It can't keep on rolling if we're waiting for tomatoes that are coming from foreign, or we're waiting for Yukon Gold potatoes from someplace else. It has to be what is grown here. It has to be what we have here, the beauty that we have here. So I think that's one of the things that we have really focused on at Stush in the Bush, and we will continue to focus on. What's in season, what we are growing, what other people are growing that are right around us and within the community, and having those conversations about sustainability. Because I don't think that, I agree. No, we can't all be certified organic, but we can all be growing with a conscience, and we can all be growing things that are particular to our climate, and having those dialogues and incorporating all of the people all around. One of the things that we've done is that we've also diversified into a delivery system, into offering to Kingston and to Mobay. If you are not feeling comfortable about coming out to sit and dine with us in the open air, then guess what? We can send some things to you. So you have an option to be able to kind of work within that circle, right? Or within that framework. In addition, we've modified what we've done in order to provide more outdoor dining space, more outdoor spaces where you can grab a quilt, you can grab a cushion, you can get things to come to you. So it's a different experience, and it is about trying to become and maintain a certain level of relevancy to what's happening in these current times. So I think that for us, Jamaica as a food destination, everybody has kind of spoken to that. I do believe that food can pull everyone here. We just have to continue to put it out there.
Thank you. I'm going to ask, here's a question for Michelle, and then I'm going to ask everybody's take on it. It's from Chef Samantha. Do you think Jamaica, Michelle, do you think Jamaica cuisine is varied and rich enough to command praise and exploration by the international food critics or organizations?
Very interesting question. I absolutely do. I think, but again, I come back to the conversation. I think the conversation around what is Jamaican food needs to be evolved. I think that we have a context here, and that's and something that has also been exported, that the only thing that is Jamaican food is ackee and saltfish or this or oxtail or what have you. And from the experience of a summer house or a stush or even Miss T's with her oxtail pasta, you know that is not the reality. And I think that as a culture and as a diet, our food is, they're the traditional things, but our food has not evolved beyond a certain point in terms of how we present it. And I think that is, there's value in all manifestations, and neither is right or wrong, because culture is not a fixed concept. The concept of culture is an ever-growing, ever-evolving concept. So what Jamaica was in the 1800s is not what Jamaica is, culturally, mix-wise, obviously, for not sociopolitically or whatever. But what the cultural mix in Jamaica was in 1800s is not the cultural mix in Jamaica today. And so what you see that the essence or the isness of a cuisine is something that is evolving. So French cuisine is French cuisine, and you can go somewhere and have a traditional beef bourguignon, or you can go and have coq au vin, or you can go and have whatever, but then you can go into Jean-Georges' new vegan restaurant in Paris and have a truly French experience that is completely different to what the traditional French dining experience would have been. And I think what we do not have enough of in Jamaica is an evolution of the cuisine to include a focus purely on culture, history, and ingredients and methodology, cooking techniques. So exploring traditional cooking techniques, but in new ways. You see waves of that happening all over the world. Looking at the ingredient, which is something that Sushi does a lot very well, looking at the ingredient for the ingredient itself. How many ways or how many presentations can you do of a beet in a dining experience? And also looking at the memory or the experience that you as a Jamaican living, working, and growing up in Jamaica embody within you. I'm as much Jamaican, I've never worked anywhere else. I'm as much Jamaican as any of my staff members, but my life experience growing up and my experience of dining in Jamaica, traveling, or my culinary experiences are not theirs. And one does not negate the other. They can coexist side by side. And so what I don't think has happened is that I don't see enough of those sorts of tangible manifestations of people's individualized Jamaican dining experiences as chefs. What is your identity? Or as a restaurant, what is the story that you're trying to tell about Jamaican food? If you grew up and your first memory of food was with your grandmother on a country porch eating, I don't know, coconut. I remember this from when I was growing up. We would go pick tamarind from a tree and dip it in brown sugar, right? So are you creating a drink around that? Are you taking that memory and that experience that is unique to you and turning it into a dining experience? Because on a global perspective, that is what an international food critic or someone with a really refined palate, that's what they're looking for. They want to feel that by sitting in your space and having something that you have prepared for them, they're somehow embodying an experience that is your own, that will take them to a part or a place that they've never been before. And I think that we have so much great, street food, but, the small family-run community restaurant, there's not a lot of focus on that, and is a guest who is staying at a very high-end villa going to feel comfortable to go and sit down in a community-run restaurant just so? Maybe not. So what are the small things that restaurant can do to make that guest feel comfortable? What is it that you change the tables? Is it that everybody who ever went to Hellshire or went to Little Ochi or went to, what do you call it there, Aussies in Alligator Pond, anybody who ever went to those places loved it. So the question is, where and how can you find more experiences like that across the island, regionally across the island? This is not about one parish. This is not about, all the tourists come to Mobay, so there's a lot of experiences in around Mobay, but when you get to another part of the island, there's nothing. It's about how can every small, medium-sized business around the island find a space that is so unique to theirs that they're not threatened by the fact that there's an all-inclusive down the road, because there's something in that space that all-inclusive down the road is going to send their customers to experience. Because once you define and differentiate yourself, that's what's going to happen. So from the global context of the question, yes, I think we can stand up, but I think we have allowed our food to be misappropriated. I think we've allowed our food to be bastardized outside of Jamaica, and we've allowed other people to create the narrative about what is Jamaican and by extension Caribbean food. It's been sort of hijacked by a narrative that is not of our own making. And I think that is where the challenge is. It's kind of esoteric, so I'm sorry to say it this way, but I think that is where the challenge is that it's really about formalizing the tangible ways that we can create these experiences here so that they become our own and they are not something that someone is telling us is Jamaican food. And you are not an authentic Jamaican restaurant because you serve pasta, or you're not an authentic Jamaican restaurant because it doesn't look like a patty shop, or a patty store rather, or a cook shop, or a pan chicken man. And I think that, or it's not jerk. I think that is the challenge that I have with that. Everybody knows or has an experience of Jamaican food that is their own. And we need to see more of that out there. And then it will be valued for what it is, I think.
Let me ask Annika this, to use Michelle's words. A critic or somebody with a refined palate, how would your Oxdale, Yard-style Oxdale measure up? Not the Oxdale patty, but Oxdale rice and peas and plantain.
Well, I've had quite a few of those people pass through Miss T's kitchen, and it has measured up very well. And I think, Novia, that comes from just our culture and where we're coming from, all the influences we've had, the British, the Spanish, the Indians. I mean, it's like our motto is out of many one. And I mean, I've traveled all over the world, and not because I'm Jamaican, but I've sat in other restaurants, not just my own in Jamaica. And I've had food that, I mean, when it goes on this palette, I mean, and I don't want to point out, even going to Stush in the Bush the other day, and this is all local. I mean, everything down to the cheesecake that you made with the mulberries. What you call them again, Lisa? The mulberries. I mean, it was explosive. I was beside myself. You know what I mean? If I get an Ethiote apple and make up a pie with that, I mean, people come and you put all the spices in there, pimento, cloves, all of these things. Coconut oil. I mean, pure cold pressed coconut oil. You can't get flavors like that nowhere else. So I think definitely, I mean, even if you're sitting in a restaurant or you go in and, Michelle, I tend to want to disagree with you about the parishes, because in every single parish, remember, I'm the road trip queen, you can find something unique that if you know about it, it is going to pull you there. Whether it could be something as simple as a honey. It could be someplace, anywhere you go, you can see that you have a yam and saltfish man going up in the hills of St. Anne. You have, so there's just all of this. So I definitely think so, Novio. And I've been tried and tested. I've had people from all over the world come and have this oxtail. I mean, chefs that are, well known. And when they have it, they're like, Miss T, you need to really tell us what's in it. And all that's in it is what we've learned from, our culture and our great local ingredients and spices and love. So I definitely think so.
Adrian, do you think Jamaica cuisine can stand up, can pass muster globally?
Yes, I do. I think so. I also do agree with Michelle that there needs to be additional evolution and presentation and packaging and portion control as well with regards to how it is put out there to the public. And there also needs to be a whole cultural side to it as well from an experience standpoint, so that we can own what we're doing and put it out there. But I do think that it definitely can be well recognized. Absolutely.
So what's your take on it?
I'm going to use one word that I think sort of encapsulates all of that in terms of what you're talking about, which is refinement, right? And I think the essence of refinement is what sort of, it definitely drives me. I've been sitting on this whole concept of wanting, a Michelin star for forever, right? I mean, I think we all can kind of like gravitate towards that as it being the piece de resistance, right? But for me, I really see what that means, and I can appreciate that in the type of food that we're trying to put out in the first place. When we went to South Africa, when you think about a dining experience, right, and you think about the ways that you experience that when you go abroad, whether it be Italy, whether it be South Africa, whether it be France, any of those other places, you are expecting a certain type of experience, right? And for me, I think I take the travels that we have been on and sort of reincorporate that into what we're doing with a Jamaican perspective. So if I can go someplace else and experience something, there's pepper pot everywhere, right? There's pepper pot. Barbados puts out one. Guyana has one. Everybody has a pepper pot soup that they do. I think what also makes us distinctive is that we're looking from it from a completely plant-based perspective, which is totally different, I think, than people who are serving proteins, right? We don't serve curry goat. We don't serve oxtail, fish, that sort of thing. So for us, we really are looking at plants and how plants can be representative of all of those things. And I'm not talking about things like tofu or chunks or whatever, those other types of things. I'm really talking about the plant in and of itself. So here we are, we have this pepper pot soup. And to me, what then takes it or elevates it to another level is that we decided that we're going to use mint in it as opposed to just something else, right? It goes really well. It has a really strong flavor. It's really lovely alongside the kale, alongside the okra, alongside the callaloo, right? So it makes a difference when you start to make when you have refinement. So I definitely feel that we all can aspire to that if that's what you're aspiring to. And I think we can sit on the global stage because the food is very distinctive. We turn around, we have yam. It doesn't have to be just roasted. It can be like a croquette. It can be something else. So when you start to look and play around with the food and play around with the qualities as well, I think all of those things kind of come into play when you're talking about global gastronomy and also thinking about whether or not we can, we would pass muster. I definitely think that we can pass muster. I definitely think it just means that you have to be a bit more in tune with how you want something presented and how food looks. You eat with your eyes first. We all do. Right? When I sat at Summer House the other day and the tartare came out and the plantain crisps all around it, I was like, this looks like a flower, right? This is what we want in life. We want to be able to eat beauty. And there's nothing different from that. It's not just about quantity of something or how much of something you're getting. I think, yes, it's a refined palate, it's a refined diet. And I think the more that we can expose our staffs and the people who are dining with us to the fact that, plants can be all of these things. I think that in and of itself is also important. And to say that that's not Jamaican, could I say that that's not Jamaican? No, it's grown here. It's harvested here. It's all of the things that are representative of our spices and the things that we love to eat here. So as long as it's all of that, it is Jamaican food, right? It is Jamaican food. It's made here. So those are things that we have to take into consideration also, not just necessarily that, we're borrowing from some other place. People borrow from us all the time, as well you said, right? So if we can take it and turn it into our own, if we're making a callaloo pasta or we're making an ackee ravioli, those things belong to us. They belong to us. It's about how we present it, how we refine it, how we sort of have those finer details that make it sing, right? I think that is, to me, what I would love to see all over. I don't want it bathed in oil or bathed in sauces. I want to be able to taste what it is and to be able to have that experience of that food in my mouth, just making me feel like, oh my God, this is really what it's all about, right? It's bright. It has all of the flavor components. Those are the things that we're looking for when we're talking about these types of gastronomic experiences that are going to call or beckon the world stage to our door.
Somebody wants to know if we're known for a particular type of food and experience, why does the food have to evolve? I would imagine, Michelle, that's for you. Why does it have to evolve is a question that's been asked.
I think you don't have to evolve. And I think evolution is not something that you can stop. I think that's the nature of life. So it's not, evolving does not mean you do away with what we already do very well. Evolving just means that you expand the conversation to include more people for a different type of diet or dining experience that they may want that we don't have here. Mm-hmm. And I want to go back to something that Annika said, which I think is just to be clear here. I'm not saying that they don't have these dining experiences in all these parishes. I'm saying the exact opposite. I'm saying there are amazing, individual, unique, authentic dining experiences all across the island of Jamaica. But these are not packaged for the average visitor. You know, because you're a local and you drive out there and you're going to drive up into the hills and you're going to explore. But someone coming to Jamaica does not know, unless they are guided there, that the best roast yam and saltfish in X or Y or Z or the best honey is in P or Q or whatever. We know this as Jamaicans. And when you're developing a destination, you're developing it for your local community, but you're also developing things for the people who are coming to experience it. So evolving the dining experience is not about changing the food, because the things that we do well, we don't need more experience to produce. We already do that really well. And we already have amazing roadside food. We already have really great, sip spots and porridge vendors. And, I've crossed this entire island top to bottom, in and out, into factories or whatever. I know all of the really great food experiences that exist. But a visitor coming to Jamaica may not want street food every day. A visitor coming to Jamaica may not eat meat. A visitor coming to Jamaica may not like ITIL food because it doesn't have salt. So, the average person that you speak to doesn't even know what ITIL food is who comes to Jamaica. They've never even heard of it. So evolving the cuisine is not about changing already established, really good. And if anybody knows what our perspective on the food is that the food in Jamaica is amazing. And it is the perfect balance and blend of the refined with the rustic. What needs to evolve, I firmly stand by this, and it doesn't negate what already exists. What needs to evolve is a perspective of how you prepare that food and how it can be consumed to be perceived as truly Jamaican in its own and on its own. So if it is that breadfruit as roasted breadfruit and breadfruit as fried breadfruit, that's great. But is it the only way to produce breadfruit? You're seeing breadfruit flowers. That's an evolution, but it's an evolution that stems from a tradition that is a legacy tradition, a historical tradition that's rooted and grounded there. They talk about these provisions flowers from back in the 1800s and the 1700s, just like cassava meal is a type of flour made from provisions. But, is it that that's the only way we can produce it here? In Grenada, they make something called oil down, which is a braised breadfruit. If you go into the maroon communities, you're going to find plut, which is, and you're going to find pakasa, and you're going to find banana moussa. These are all amazing things, but most people even Jamaicans have never heard of these things. And so the evolution of the cuisine is about looking at the legacy of the food, where it comes from, how it's prepared, what are the ingredients, and starting a conversation from that space. What already exists and what is out there, and how do you create diversity and inclusivity in the market? How does a visitor that comes to Jamaica travel around the island and not stop at every single vendor and get the exact same thing at every single one or every single restaurant? What is that experience for a visitor to the island and for a local that makes it worth their while? So, I do think it's important to evolve, because that's just the nature of human experience: evolve or become obsolete.
There's a question here from Chef Brian Lumley. Who do you think best represents or controls the narrative of Jamaican cuisine? Albeit hotels do not quite showcase the most authentic product in some cases, or, they do give it their best effort in some cases. Anybody? You want to repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay, it's from Chef Brian Lumley. Who do you think best represents or controls the narrative of Jamaican cuisine? Basically, is what he's saying.
I can answer what my perspective is. It's not necessarily the right perspective. I think the narrative is controlled by the people who have, in the past, has been controlled by the people who market the destination. And I think, and this is what I spoke to in my presentation, I think it's very important to own your own story. I think what has happened over the years is that it really becomes about what people think the public want to hear, not about what the truth of the experience is to us as Jamaicans. And that's a diverse reality. It's very different for all of us as true, authentic Jamaicans. Lisa?
I just want to say that I think, well, two things I want to talk about, but I want to respond to that question first. I think with the advent of social media, I think we all have a way to control the narrative at this point. And I think that there are so many people that are coming and posting and sharing and talking. You know, never have we ever had to take out an advertisement. We have always been by word of mouth only. And we go by word of mouth because there's just nothing better than that. There's nothing better than people advocating and saying, you need to go to this place because this is what I had there. And even if you come back 3 times in a week, you might not get the same thing because everything there is different. And I think when you think about this whole concept of a destination, right? Anna Kay, you talked about this a little bit earlier. I have trouble going out to eat. Okay, let's talk turkey now. If we're really going to talk truth about this whole concept of a destination, we have trouble. I have trouble as a vegetarian going out to eat, but it's a wonderful, as a vegan, let's say, yeah. I go to these different places and people, the first thing they want to offer me is curry tofu or curry chickpeas or something along those lines. Yeah. Or they're going to make ito stew for me at the last minute. You know, nobody's giving any thought to the fact that, you know, you may have people who are not meat eaters or who don't eat fish. How is that going to work? So when people say to me, you know, Lauren is Anna Kay's daughter who comes up and talks and we have conversations and all these other kinds of things. And the first thing that she says to me when she's opening this restaurant is, oh, people are like, it's going to be a competition. This is not about competition, right? This is about a destination. And you can't have one thing that people are going to come to when it's a destination. It has to be more than one. So how about people arrive on island? They have this opportunity to come up to Fish in the Bush. So they're here with us on a Friday. They go to Lala's Nutmeg or Miss T's Kitchen on Saturday and they have summer brunch Sunday brunch at Summer House. And everybody is able, if you're a plant-based person, you're able to eat, right? That's huge. That says so much about us as a destination, that it's not just one place that you can go to have some good food. You can go to 4 different places. And even if you're not a meat eater, you can have something diverse. You know, I can go to Conroy at Hermosa Cove and have a great salad. I can go there and I can say to him, Chris is coming with me. So you know the deal. Don't put it on any lobster. You need to have some other things. So if you have people that have that and can do that, then you can have a well-rounded experience. You cannot have a well-rounded experience with just one location that's catering to that niche. You know, I have to be able to go to all of these places on island, whether it be Golden Eye or the Jamaica Inn or, Round Hill. I need to be able to travel this entire island and still have a great food experience as a vegan, right? There needs to be those options. It can't just be that. So you have to think about it from a holistic perspective. It's not just about having this one perspective that, this person is doing that. And so it becomes a competition and we all can't do that. When I go to Kingston, I have to be able to eat still, right? During the course of the day, whether that's going to be at the Plantry or whether that's going to be at Mariana's or where is it going to be? We have to think about it from a larger scope. It's not just the small, the one place that you can go to. You have to be able to diversify and have something somewhere else. And when we're talking about things about the evolution of food, it's not really just that we're negating. Just as you said, Michelle, there's not to negate everything else that's there. It's to take it to the next level. And it can have both things can coexist. They can coexist in those spaces. It can be to the next level. It can be, just the same rustic. Who doesn't love roast yam and saltfish? That used to be my favorite thing now that we take the highway, nobody sees that side of the island anymore, right? So that used to be my favorite thing. But now I can still take that same yam and turn it into something else. That doesn't mean that I don't pay homage to where it came from. It means that I can pay homage to the entire thing. You can encapsulate the entire thing that we are doing. It's not just that one thing alone. And we do have to think about, I'm ready for the next destination, for the next gastronomic center to be right here, Ocho Rios, between Ocho Rios and St. Mary. You have key players sitting right around this table, right here, right in this panel. And everybody here is putting out good food. Everybody.
There's Raquel Maria. Hi there. Thanks for the discussion. I'm a Trinidad and Tobago National and Sustainable Development Specialist. I'm interested in getting involved, participating or collaborating in the industry. Do you have any recommendations for who I can reach out to? Well, they're all here. Raquel Maria, Maria, welcome. They're all here. Reach out to one, reach out to all. There's Chef Samantha brings back the point, and here's a question that I'd love all of you to respond to. Do we need, as a destination, to go in search of the Michelin star? Or do we need to create our own? Michelle? Do we need to go? I mean, I saw a picture the other day and I sent it to Lisa Binns at Social in the Bush because I'm like, well, really, do we need the Michelin star? We have our own here. Let's create our own star. Michelle, do we need to go in search of the ubiquitous Michelin star?
Yes and no. It's a very complex question. I think we don't need the Michelin star as validation or justification to an external body or authority that we are good enough. Okay? So let me make that very clear. What something like a Michelin star or a James Beard Award or any kind of award that is an international award does is that it gives you a context from which you can view the caliber of the product that you produce beside other international products. So for example, and this is a little bit outside of sort of parallel to our industry, a chocolate producer who competes in an international chocolate festival in Belgium, who has a panel evaluate their chocolate and tell them, or they win an award or tell them it's good, like a wine award or a rum award or whatever, is a way for them to recognize that outside of their own internal narrative, what I'm doing is really good, what I'm doing is the best, is your product at the standard, the quality standard, not that's in terms of, that how it should look. Jamaicans create really great, really, really high quality products all over, everywhere. But what's your packaging? What's your branding? What's your narrative? So if you could have a really great quality chocolate inside of a bad wrapper, and that may make it on a shelf in a local store or gift shop or whatever. Nothing wrong with that. But is that going to make it in Sainsbury's, or is that going to be in Harrods, or is that going to be something that you can export outside of Jamaica as an authentic Jamaican product? Like how you look at examples of that, Pick a Pepper, Blue Mountain Coffee. There are standards to their production that they compete in these international environments that allow them to see what global businesses are doing and therefore evaluate themselves neutrally alongside those businesses. So is the Michelin star necessary to validate what we produce here on island? No. But in the context of what it would provide to evaluate yourself alongside really high producing products, is not a negative. I don't see that as a bad thing. I think that it would be wonderful if we could have a Michelin star on the island. But it's not required for us to create incredible food experiences that cross the gamut of casual to refined.
Anna Kay.
Yeah, I agree with Michelle on all that she said. She made great points there. And I feel the same. But no, we have our own Michelin star, man. We have the Jamaica Observer Food Awards. We don't need anything else.
Samantha, made the point about are we good enough? Are we good enough? Are we as a people good enough? Because there's no Michelin star on the island. So we ask the question. Lisa, do we need to go in search of a Michelin star? I just think we've already given you a Michelin star. They need to come and search for you.
So there's two things that I think about that. I think that Michelle is correct. I think that Novia, you are correct as well. Anna Kay, same. No, we don't necessarily have to go search for it, but I think for me, it's a point of passion, right? I'm just going to talk about it from that perspective, because it's a very personal thing, right? To even be recognized on that stage, I think. And while I feel that I can only have that dialogue because we have been putting out our best. And when you are putting out your best and you are, toiling over plating and toiling over what does this look like? How can I deconstruct this? How do I want this to look? How do I want people to take it in, right? How I want to have these conversations about food? Yeah, I want that Michelin star, and I'm not going to be ashamed to say it, right? I want it, and that's a personal passion for me. But do I feel that, everybody needs to be in search of that? No, that doesn't have to be your thing. It doesn't have to be. And do I think that that's the only thing that's going to give me any recognition? No, I certainly don't. I think from the smallest teenager that can come here and have an experience and eat everything, that to me is incredible. And that to me says a lot. So, yes, we have the Observer Food Awards, and I treasure each and every one of them that I've ever received. And I know I've worked really hard with Christopher to make sure that we've gotten to that space. But as we continue to grow, you have to reach for the stars, right? And to me, I don't know whether or not we're interested in creating in the Caribbean something that's similar to that, something that is, tantamount to a Michelin star or our own rating system. That's all fine. But I do think that if we're having this conversation about globally that we want to be on this stage, then yes, why not? Why not have the aspiration? I have the aspiration, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And I don't feel that in any way changes my food or changes what we put forth or changes, who I'm representing and representing Jamaica proudly. So for me, I definitely want it. I'm working my way towards it each and every day, from glassware to knives, Miss Novia, to all of those things. I consistently am always upgrading, always thinking about what's the next thing that we're going to, because that is also how you stay relevant. You do have to consider the time. You have to consider the space that you're in. You have to consider the dialogue that is occurring within that space. And you have to be able to, tune out the noise, right? And be your authentic self. And each and every time that we wake up at Stush in the Bush and the staff comes in, we try to be our authentic selves. We try to represent for the vegetables. We try to make sure that they are as sexy as they can be and that they draw you in, and that when you come up here, you are not going to miss one piece of a protein. And that is not to disparage anybody else. That's just our mantra. And I think everybody has to get to that space. And if you're not in that space, you need to examine why you're doing what you're doing.
Adrian, let me ask you, Michelin star.
I do think it's important that we have a standard to work and to achieve, to a standard to get, right, to achieve. And I think it is important that from an international standpoint, that we're recognized to have that level of standard, and that comes across with service all around and food quality. So I think yes, and it is something that is important for us to work towards. And I agree. Yeah, I think we should.
Gary Ferguson, a comment from Gary Ferguson. Miss T and I cooked jerk chicken and pork in France and outsold the duck and foie gras 3-1. Our food is world class. Any comments? Any comments there?
That's exactly my point, Novi. I mean, they had a tent for all the VIPs and all this foie gras and all this special food. And we basically had to get security to come and keep them off and say, listen, we're cooking for, one set of VIPs here. And it caused a lot of, kind of disharmony with all the international chefs. And then after a while, they realized, well, if we can't beat them, we have to join them. And so, yes, Gary and I mashed up the place in France with our good old authentic Jamaican jerk with a twist on it. So, yeah, I think we've made a mark with our food. I'm very proud of what we've done. I feel the same way that a lot more can be done, especially with training.
Absolutely.
Michelle, we touched earlier. We need a restaurant, an independent restaurant kind of association where we can create collaboration. We can, be on the same lines. Guess what? Yes, when I got the news about everything that's happening with the curfew and the lockdown, I was like, Jesus, who do I call? What do I do? Do I close for the next 3 weeks? Is it worth it? Simple, finding products. Like you said, what happened with us in Jamaica, I think our biggest problem is that we have this competitive thing about us and we're insecure about our products and what we're doing. And so we feel, Lord, whoa, if Summer House come, Jesus, what am I going to do? Guess what? I welcome Summer House. You understand? Summer House is brought a whole diverse, like I spoke about earlier, to St. Anne, to St. Mary. But I welcome you to St. Anne, my God. St. Anne, anyway.
Anyway, I think it's a positive note, which to end. I mean, we need to continue this conversation. I mean, it's not just about talking, because that's what we tend to do well, talk, but not really implement. So I think, the conversations that we've just had with Adrienne, the mayor, Michelle Rousseau, Anna K. Tomlinson, and Lisa Binns, has given us, pun intended, much food for thought. Where do we go from here? Competition is good. We need competition. If we're a destination, if we're a food destination, obviously, the more choices, the better, right? How do this conversation that we're having here, are we ensuring that the next generation of culinary stars coming up, are they understanding the conversation? Is this conversation being had, in the hospitality industry, where we are training our future cooks, our future chefs, our future F&B stars? There's so much that needs to be said. This is the final for now. I'd like to once again thank Tourism Linkages Network and the Gastronomy Forum for this, brought to us in association with the Ministry of Tourism, TEF, and Taste Jamaica. Thank you very much, Lisa and Christopher Binns. I'll call Anna K. Tomlinson, Adrienne and Daniela Mayer, and Michelle and Suzanne Rousseau for this conversation, which you really encouraged a lot of people to think. I think, the parting shot has got to be the fact that Anna K. and Gary Ferguson, trumped the foie gras. But let us all support each other. I think that's the most important thing. There's competition. Competition is good. Let us all support each other. If we want the industry to grow, we've got to visit. I think COVID has presented, the pandemic has presented a wonderful opportunity for locals to really stay at home and focus on what we have. It has certainly given the opportunity to places like Summer House, Stush in the Bush, Miss T's, and Dr. Bird Services to embrace, nurture, and to pamper our local markets so that they will continue to support, because we're not, we still have the best cooks oftentimes in our homes. So there's no reason to go out. It's always fascinating to hear people saying, well, okay, no, they're not even a piece of chicken at Stush in the Bush, but when they leave, they feel great. They've enjoyed, and their tummies are full. Standing out from the crowd, developing a destination restaurant experience. I'm Novia MacDonald-White, and it has been a wonderful 2 hours. I am now hungry, so I hope somebody's going to beam some food towards me. Thank you. Bye. Thanks.